Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris Yee.
Hey, I'm Ben Storms. And it is that spookiest time of year.
Spooky.
Does Halloween, spookiness come, in, a bell curve type thing? Is it spooky leading up to Halloween, and then Halloween's the peak of the spooky, or is it just Halloween is the spooky day?
I think literally right after Halloween, it's not spooky anymore.
Yeah,
right?
there is zero spookiness. I'd also say that the spookiest part is probably about, October 27th or so.
Like the week before, right?
Yeah. Because after that, you kind of get a little, spookied out.
I mean, some people do, the whole month.
Yeah. Well, so actually also, on that whole, that's sort of the idea is that, October 1st rolls around and get your Halloween shit out and put it all up.
Yeah.
There is actually one house. There's a route that I run on pretty often. That there is one house that has had their Halloween stuff out since the exact day, September 1st.
September 1st?
Which seems a little excessive to me.
That's too early.
Yeah, that's way too early.
When I say Halloween stuff, they have like fake gravestones and a giant spider. They go all out. It's very strange.
That's still technically summer.
Right.
That's I thought you were gonna be oh yeah, they have a fucking jack-o'-lantern and maybe some spider webs or something. But no, the full-on tombstone spider decorations.
It is full-on tombstone spider web. All of that is out for, I am assuming, a solid 2 months. I need to make sure that I go and run that way on November 1st and see if it's still there or if they're very prompt in getting it down.
Yeah, that'll tell you if they're either just half lazy, that they just done it when they had the opportunity and then just leave it up for a while, or if they're just super Halloween fans and we're that excited to have 2 months of Halloween.
Yeah, it's just like Labor Day weekend. It's well, we got a free day here. May as well get it done now.
I mean, I understand that a ton of people are way into Christmas and Christmas decorations and they do that early. Mm-hmm. But I've never heard of someone this into Halloween decorations.
It's weird, right? Halloween decorations aren't really a huge thing even.
I mean, people do get into them, but to do it 2 months ahead of time, that's...
And I think the people that decorate for Halloween big, they'll segue fall decorations into Halloween decorations because you can use all your, autumn leaves and pumpkins over.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then you just add the actual spooky stuff to make it the Halloween
That would be
version.
the other way around because Thanksgiving is after Halloween. So you can, reuse it for Thanksgiving a little. There isn't really a pre-Halloween holiday.
If you were going to put out Labor Day decorations, what would that entail?
Just, I don't know.
Labor Day has literally nothing going for it except that everybody's off.
You'd put out all your white collars.
Yeah,
just put them out on the lawn. Don't need these anymore.
It's the new game, Labor Day Frisbee.
Oh, we should make a Labor Day movie that they can play every Labor Day. Because there are no other Labor Day movies, so...
I feel like that's just random Adam Sandler movies that they show all the time on Comedy Central. That is the Labor Day movie.
Adam Sandler accidentally goes to work on Labor Day and doesn't realize it until it's super embarrassing.
Hijinks ensue.
Because, if you make the hit Christmas movie, that's what they play on Christmas, then you make a ton of money. Elf. Elf makes a ton of money.
No, the big one is A Christmas Story, where they do a 24-hour marathon every year on TBS.
Right. I've seen that movie so many times.
Yeah.
Mostly during that marathon over and over again.
Right,
Because you just turn it on, and you're Christmasing, so, it's not like you're watching it. And so the TV just stays on, abandoned, and you catch, 15-minute snippets all through the day.
Yeah, you eventually see the entire movie over the course of, 7 showings of the movie.
I like that we've started talking about Christmas on Halloween.
Yeah. When we start bitching about people talking about Christmas too soon, I mean, we're perpetrator number 1 and 2 and 3, I guess.
Yeah, so let's get back on topic with our spooky Halloween questions that we specifically selected because they're the spookiest. This first one's about spiders, and specifically, what if you could perfectly train spiders? Well, I guess I'll start us off then. So... looking at doing research on spiders, while upsetting, was actually pretty interesting. Spiders are super cool and actually have a lot of cool, superpowers-ish things.
There's a lot of cool different spiders.
Yeah.
So what really stuck with me was the things that I did not expect spiders to be able to do. Fine, they got senses, they got webs, they got this, but there's some things I did not expect spiders to do. And what got me first was I did not expect them to be able to fly.
Yeah, that caught me off guard too. I found that in my research.
So, and when I say fly, I don't mean like glide, like it gets swept up by wind currents, like it makes like a parachute or something. Like straight up generates lift, flies. And it does this with the fucking electromagnetic forces in the atmosphere.
But Spider-Man can't fly. Why can't Spider-Man fly?
That's because he doesn't have like a physics degree to figure this shit out. Wait, does he? Doesn't he?
He's pretty smart.
Wait, actually, he might.
Yeah.
Is he? Yeah, he has some kind of some kind of physics background.
He's super smart.
Is it Kemet? I don't know.
Did they give him anything except being a nerd?
No, he definitely has some sort of degree.
Okay, we have to get off Spider-Man because otherwise that's all we're going to talk about this whole question.
Right, less man, more spider, go.
So basically what the spider does is, first off, it sticks out its legs in the air to test the voltage in the atmosphere and the wind current direction. And then it shoots out a web that somehow when it generates the web, it actually gives it a slight static charge. So it shoots this web, and the differential between like the positively charged Earth and the slightly less negatively charged atmosphere catches that web and pulls it up like magnetically and lifts the spider off the ground.
See, when you say that a spider can fly, I think it shoots its web and the wind takes it. But no, it's electric currents.
Yeah, they specifically look for low wind conditions to do this in.
It's crazy.
And they go up, like, they have found spiders, like, where'd I have it? Over a mile into the fucking air. So if you thought boarding a plane and, like, getting on that was going to keep you safe from spiders, think again. There's spiders fucking everywhere.
Do they have any, like, control over it when they're in the air?
I mean, if they're a mile up, I assume little to none.
Right.
But they do say they actually, I take it back because I just remembered I was reading that they, like, migrate a little bit doing this, and they actually have the ability to, like, land on specific islands, or, like, they've, swarms have landed on ships passing through the ocean.
Oh, that's terrifying.
That'd be terrifying.
Why did you tell me that? I can't go on ships anymore, Marcus.
Look, this is gonna get scary. This is a scary, spooky episode, so...
I don't like sailing. Why? Because you're scared of sharks? No, I'm scared of spiders.
Spiders.
Yeah, I'm not gonna... You have a better chance of getting attacked by a horde of spiders than a shark. So, the question is, now if I can train these flying spiders, can I harness their flying power? So, what I want to do was I want to see could you just get enough spiders together to generate enough lift to just, like, replace the engine on an airplane. So, a single ballooning spider. There's a bunch of different species, but the one I had was, like, a smaller one. It can generate about 10 to 30 nanocoulombs of charge in its thread, which is a very small number. It's got a lot of zeros, but I don't have anything to make the units make sense to myself or a layman. But based on the height the spider can achieve with that charge, based on the equation Q equals mg over E naught times E to the alpha HEQ, to lift a plane that weighs 135,000 pounds, which would be a Boeing 7047, a pretty standard plane, you would need 2.25 quadrillion spiders to generate enough lift to lift up the airplane.
That's too many spiders.
Well, they're very small, so I did want to check how many spiders I could fit on an airplane.
Are there that many of these spiders in the world?
Don't answer that question. I don't want to know.
Look, I can perfectly train them, so if I need more spiders, I can just direct them to... Yeah, I can make them breed. I can get some nasty spider, orgies going, and then I have enough spiders to open my airline that no one will ride. So a Boeing 747 is 130 feet long, about 12 feet wide, and it's got about 50-foot wings. The spider is about a 1/4 inch long. So per square foot, you can fit about 2,000 spiders. And taking over the whole airplane, you can fit about 5.8 million spiders onto the plane. Which, while not enough to lift it, is pretty terrifying in my head. So, obviously, the plane, huge, humongous, no-go. But what if you just want to lift yourself? If you wanted to lift yourself up, you would need 1.8 trillion spiders, which also don't fit on the plane, and definitely don't fit on your shoulders.
I have less surface area than a 747, I think.
Yeah, so I was disappointed that these spiders did not generate enough lift to lift up anything actually relevant. Even like delivering mail and stuff, I was not getting the numbers I needed.
There might be some sort of shape that optimizes it. Just like a flat plane, maybe. Like a flat surface.
I think the physics are just not there. Like, the equation is logarithmic, so it increases exponentially on the one side. And you start getting real diminishing returns on spiders after, like, spider sizes. So spiders are not great in air. We know they're not good on the we know they're good on the ground. And then my next question is, could they be good in water? And I found another spider that piqued my interest. The Delamedes spider, also known as the fishing spider. It's known as this because, as you might imagine, it fishes. And your mental image of a spider throwing some web into the water is completely wrong.
Yeah.
What this spider can do, it actually is able to catch air in its hairs in order to stay buoyant and actually walk on the water. And so basically it skates out onto the water and then can straight up attack little fish and drag them to shore.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's really also upsetting.
How big are these fish?
And how big are these spiders?
Yeah, the bigger question is how big are the spiders? I'll tell you how big the fish are. They're actually not super small. With their legs, they can get up to 6 inches long.
Whoa, that's
Which is that is a size little spider. And they can drag a fish out of the water. It's like they're buoyant, but like also like super buoyant. Like not just I'm barely keeping myself afloat here. So they stay buoyant for about 45 minutes. And what I want to do with my spider training now is I want to bring them to New York City, bring them to Manhattan, and use them to clean up the river. Because if they can get little fish, I think they can take trash too. So if you can train these spiders to collect trash out of the river, I think you can really start fighting some of the pollution that we're doing there.
Look at you, Good Samaritan.
Exactly. And not only that, you're not supposed to swim in the Hudson. And I can guarantee you nobody will break that rule when the Hudson is full of spiders.
And that's when the crimes start. Oh, wait.
Secret heist.
Twist, time for spider crimes. No.
This time just Good Samaritan.
This time I'm just a Good Samaritan. I was thinking about spider crimes, but I decided that, like, if you are the spider criminal, like, I think that's a terrifying and bad enough mental image that, like, the entirety of all the police are after you all the time. Like, you don't get to get away with, crimes. Like, you are
right, yeah.
Mr. Wanted #1.
And Spider-Man, the name is already taken, so, like, what would you call yourself?
Yeah, you get sued by Marvel. Spider guy.
Spider villain.
El Spider Bandito. But continuing on my cleaning up the river stick here, the spiders that are floating around are good for the smaller stuff. But what about the bigger trash floating around? And the last spider I want to talk about is the Darwin's bark spider, which, of all the spiders, is known for having both the strongest web and the biggest web. So, strength-wise, the web is 25 times stronger than steel. It is the strongest natural-made material that we know of, which, like, coming from a construction background, 25 times stronger than steel is fucking buck wild.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, it's like 100 times more than the fucking shit they make bulletproof vests out of, so that's another point of comparison.
So I did do a little bit of research on web strength in mine, and I found that, like, if you're looking at the same cross-sectional area, then steel is a little stronger, but by weight, webs are way stronger.
Oh, is that how they do it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing that got me was that this spider web, like, it is the biggest, and it was bigger than I thought. It was 80 fucking feet long are their natural webs. So, like, this is a spider where it's like fucking Harry Potter. Like, they'll naturally spin their webs above rivers, like from side to side. Scientists don't even know how they get the web from one side to the other. It's just there. It is stronger than steel, and it's a giant 80-foot spider web.
Yeah, they must have just, like, launched it out. That's the only way they could have done it, right?
But, like, launching, like, 60 feet?
So conceivably, if there's, trees across the river, they could anchor on one side and then cross like branch to branch.
Dude, I don't know. I was looking at some of these photos, and it's just like, it's just there. It just
It's still
like,
buck wild, yeah.
Yeah, it just exists as a giant spider web. So I think these are the ones, if we go back to our previous mental image of a spider throwing some web into the river and catching stuff, this is what they could do. They could be on the lookout for big pieces of trash, throw out their 80-foot web, snatch onto it, reel it in, and then the river is pollution-free, and also swimmer-free. So I have done my good deed with spiders. Chris, what do you got?
So I had a little trouble figuring out what I wanted to do with spiders at first. So I just started looking at cool spiders. The first spider I found was the Portia spider, which is a type of jumping spider. And
hate those.
Yeah, there are a bunch of different types of jumping spiders, but this one is particularly cool. So it actually has some of the best eyesight out of all arthropods. It has like near 360 degree vision, so it can like see all around itself. And the cool thing about it is that it's actually like very intelligent. So when it's hunting for prey, it'll look for certain detours to avoid getting like detected. So it'll like go around its prey and try to find the best optimal route.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm feeling really great that this spider exists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very sneaky. So it'll like sneak up behind it so that the prey can't see it. And then like another tactic it uses is that, it actually eats other spiders. So it finds a spider that has a web already made, and then it goes to the web and it strums on like the end of the web to mimic like a bug that's trapped in the web, and it lures the spider over to where he is, and then he attacks it. So this actually gave me my idea for what I wanted to do, which is I want to make a spider musician. Because this is like the strumming. You can strum a guitar, that sort of thing.
The most horrible version of Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. And like most guitars have 6 strings, but some have 8 strings. So you could like make the most of their 8 8 legs.
Well, the thing is, we can play, like, people can play, like, an 8-string guitar with 5 fingers. So if you have 8 legs...
Yeah, just imagine.
You could do, like 12 or 13-string guitars. The math does not work cleanly.
Yeah, right. The problem is that most guitars or a standard guitar, the length of the neck is 25 inches long, 25 and a half inches long. And the Portia spider is only 1/5 to 2/5 inches big. So it's pretty tiny.
Yeah.
Some trouble with
that
the
hunts
cords.
other spiders? What tiny spiders does it fight?
I don't know. Other tiny spiders. It can eat, like... It eats pretty big spiders compared to itself. But still not big enough for a guitar. So I need a bigger spider. So I started looking at bigger spiders. And the biggest spider I found by mass is the Goliath bird eater.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And despite its name, it actually doesn't eat birds that
yeah,
often.
I saw that fact too, and I was actually a little disappointed,
Yeah.
but also a little relieved.
Wait, really?
I mean, it feels very deceptive, but at the same time, I'm glad there's not a spider that could just eat goddamn birds.
They did say that...
They do, though. There are spiders that eat birds, though. There are bird-eating spiders.
Don't tell me this. Let me live in ignorance.
I actually didn't know that.
Do spiders eat birds? Googling it right now.
I think you're right. I just wanted to ignore that possibility. You couldn't let me have this, Marcus.
Answer yes. I'm not finding the specific spiders that do. The bird-eating spider obviously comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, here's this video, here's this, spider eating a hummingbird, but it's like, is this the one that's debunked, or is this the, the proof of the bird eating?
Right.
Not enough time to research that now.
I don't have time to research what birds eat spiders or spiders eat birds.
Yeah. So they don't eat birds, but they do. So they usually eat insects, and sometimes they eat like rodents, frogs, lizards, and snakes. So snakes are pretty big compared to spiders, so that's kind of impressive. And its leg span is 11 inches long, so pretty big. Its body length, its body length is 4.7 inches long. So this is good for like a guitar. Like I could imagine this spider playing the guitar.
I don't want to.
It depends. Like I don't want to.
The problem is the Goliath bird eater is kind of slow. Like movement wise, it moves kind of slow. So I don't know if it'd be fast enough to like play an actual song, especially because like you need it on the neck too, and it's gonna like have to hit different chords and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, what's the next biggest spider? And the biggest spider by leg span, not by mass, but by leg span, is the giant huntsman spider. And this has a leg span of 12 inches.
If you ask me, that is like 11.75 inches too many.
Its body length is 4.6 inches, and it's much faster than the Goliath bird eater.
Oh, great.
You might have seen, I think there were some viral videos that came out before where they found this spider in some guy's house and they were trying to get it out and like scurried away.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw that and then couldn't sleep for like 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've seen that video, you can see that it moves very fast.
See, the problem with all these spider facts is now they're kind of coalescing in my brain as one super, like, horrible spider with all the combined powers. Like, I now imagine, like, this super fast huntsman spider using the tactics of not being seen and, like, knowing where I would look naturally in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So, like, the spider's, like, on purpose, like, under my bed. No, I'm not going to look there.
Yeah, basically what you're seeing now, Marcus, is the huntsman spider. Huntsman is spelled like Hunts space MEN.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, like, now it's, like, hovering over my bed with, like, it's, like, with that strand of electric charge.
Yeah.
So...
Super spider.
Nightmare fuel, great.
Yeah. So, yeah, this spider is perfect for our guitar playing. I don't think one spider would be able to do it. I think you need at least two, because you need one to strum and one on the frets.
Right.
To actually play chords. But a 2-spider system would work, I think. So it's like, okay, we can play a guitar. So what other instruments can we play? I think we can also play a piano, because spider is basically just hands, right?
It's basically just hands, so yeah, that's great.
It's 2 less fingers, but it's still. And I actually looked at how much force you need to push down a piano key, and you need 50 grams at least of mass. And I couldn't find the mass of the giant huntsman spider, but I found the mass of the Goliath bird eater, and it was 175 grams. So I think the huntsman spider would probably be comparable to that, which is more than enough to push down the keys. So they could play the piano too. And I think those are really the only 2 instruments that work. I couldn't think of any others. You
could just like have a nice little like coffee shop, musical act there.
Yeah, just a piano guitar band. And then I was like, okay, they're playing the instruments, but they have this web. Why don't they use this web? Because both of them are string instruments. Can they use their web to make the strings? So I looked at the strings for both instruments. Guitar strings are usually made of aluminum-coated nylon, and then piano wire is made of tempered high carbon steel. And both have to be put in like a lot of tension. So it needs a high tensile strength. So I think for the wires for the guitar and the piano, they both have a tensile strength of around 350 to 450 KSI. There's like a range, but it's around there. And I found that spider silk, just in general, I didn't look at like a specific spider silk, but like the average they have is 240 KSI, which is weaker. But it's, like I mentioned before, it's less dense than steel. So if you have the same amount of weight of spider silk as steel, then it'll be stronger.
Right.
It's actually 5 times stronger, average. And in the past, there have been people that have tried to make instruments out of spider silk before. In 2012, in Japan, there's a Japanese researcher that spun a violin string, and it was made up of 15,000 strands of spider silk.
Jesus.
And it actually withstood more tension than the nylon string. So it works for that.
Yeah, but like, we're doing this in a fun hypothetical joking sense. But who the fuck is the one making actual spider violins?
Right.
And has that much time to gather 15,000 strands.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one by one.
I don't know what he said he like mastered a process. So he made 3 different bundles of 5,000 strands, and then he wove those 3 bundles together.
When he says he mastered a process, what I imagine is he has his room full of spiders spinning webs. And once a day, he opens the door and he runs in, eyes closed, mouth open, screaming as he flails around, grabbing as much spider web as he can, and then comes out like a door on the other end of the room, and like slams the door behind him, like falls down against it, his back to the door, and people are like, "So how do you collect strings?" And he's like, "I've mastered a process."
And he just sits down in front of like Netflix for the next 3 days as he clings, gets all the string off of him and knits it together.
And sorts them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible to make instruments. And it's possible for spiders to play the instruments. So we have musicians, musical spiders. Yay.
Awesome.
So, Ben, what do you have?
So I also kind of did not initially have a like strong idea that jumped out at me. So I also just started looking at random ass spiders. Because
look, we have a process here. It's called looking at spiders.
This is, by the way, to the listeners, this is a pretty common way that a lot of these questions kind of go, is we just look up random facts until one jumps out at us. So there's, parting the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, Ben, just pull it all the way back.
No, sorry, we always have fully formed ideas even before we come up with the questions. Yeah, so I eventually settled on making a spider circus. So in order to make a circus, there's sort of the important things that you need for a circus. One, you obviously need a tent. I'm not gonna lie, I hadn't come up with a particular spider to make the tent. They all make web, like it's just fucking spider web is the tent. I don't know.
Just use web.
Yeah, you just use web. Like that's kind of it, guys.
Pretty straightforward.
I guess I will say that 80-foot spider web is probably a pretty decent base for it, and we'll just go from there. But then obviously the most important part of any circus is of course your performers. So first off, I'm thinking sort of like Cirque du Soleil style. You're gonna have some like interesting costume situations. So I got a couple spiders for this. My answer, by the way, is going to involve a lot of me trying to pronounce scientific names of things, which is always fun.
I learned to just avoid those.
I'm going to lean into it. I had not practiced any of these, which is a very important point to make before I embarrass myself doing this. So for our sort of interesting costume spiders, I got a couple here. So one of them is the Certorachna inequalis, colloquially known as the disco spider, which is a spider. It's one of those ones that's kind of like an orby thing on its back. And that one is kind of like a yellowish brownish. There's some scientists who think that it's supposed to look like bird poop actually as a disguise.
You picked that one as your costume?
Well, but its abdomen is semi-translucent and pulses throughout it.
Whoa.
And scientists don't actually know, one, why it does it. It might be like, some of them think it might be like a warning, but that kind of goes against the disguise thing, so who knows? It might be caused by literally like its organs moving is kind of what they think, but they really have no idea. But it just has this like sort of swirling, pulsing like movement that you can see inside of it.
I always get scared when scientists don't know something.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we can't trust them for anything.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I also get scared when I Google things like disco spider, and fine, there's a bunch of pictures of this cool disco spider you're describing. Mm-hmm. But also, in the third row of images, there is a picture of a disco ball on the floor that's going on, and a bunch of spiders swarming it.
Nope. Don't want that. The day disco died. All right. My other costume spider is a genus of spiders called Murmurarachna. Which is basically spiders that disguise themselves as ants. So they have like elongated ant-like heads and like the hourglass thorax, like an ant would. And they actually so they have 8 legs still, but their front legs are short and sort of in front of their jaws, and they hold them up and wiggle them like an antenna. So they'll actually try to like sneak into like ant colonies by doing this.
Spiders are sneaky.
Spiders are very sneaky and still terrifying at all times. I will say these spiders are actually they're pretty smart. They will, if they see something that preys on ants, they will just immediately be like, "Nope, I'm a spider, not an ant, not actually an ant. Legs go down.
Not with these guys. I'm an ant.
One of them. I was just passing through." So there's my sort of like costume spiders for the circus. We obviously, if you're gonna have a circus, you need clowns. Clowns are tricky for many reasons. So I can't really judge the humor of spiders because they're terrifying.
Well, Ben, first you have to judge the humor of a clown, which is
also terrifying.
So really they're on base.
Yeah, this is working pretty well, honestly. But one of the important things about clowns with regards to like circuses, there's always in groups. So there are, for the most part, spiders are relatively solitary, but there are some species that live in colonies, and one in particular, Theridion nigroanulatum there. That one has a lot of N's and A's and U's and stuff. Real fun. They live in colonies from a few dozen to a few thousand, and actually do some pretty complicated tasks together. So like the way they hunt, they live in like the rainforest, and they'll hang webbing from the bottom of leaves and then hide beneath those leaves. And when something flies into the strands, they like all jump up together and swarm it, and then like put more web on it and bite it until it dies, and then like carry it back together. So they can do complex tasks. So you can get them to like get in a tiny car or something, and just tumble out together. I don't know, whatever.
Tiny box car.
Yeah, whatever clowns do. I don't know.
This is like that Planet Earth shit where they're like, oh, by the way, snakes? Yeah, they hunt in packs now, too, in some places.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's just not one snake. It's like a million snakes that immediately just simultaneously come out of the rocks.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
attack.
And just, destroyed all safety you have around, rocks.
I'm running out of earth to live on. I can't go in the air. I can't go in the water. I can't go in the rocks.
Another tagline for our show is just be afraid of most things. And finally, you definitely need, at a circus, you definitely need acrobats. That's, a very important part of a circus. So first off, we have sort of the spider that made me want to go down this path for the circus. There is Sabrinus Reckenbergi.
Reckenbergi?
Which has the nickname, and I don't know why this is the nickname, the Flick Flack spider. That basically, it lives in the desert, and when it's in danger, it somersaults away. It basically... So, I'm not going to say cartwheels, because that implies that it's like, you take a spider and tilt it 90 degrees, so it's like rolling like a wheel. It's not doing that. It's actually like flipping forwards and like springing off with its front legs and doing like front flips and tumbling that way.
That's pretty awesome.
It actually looks really hilarious and also kind of fake as hell. Like it looks like in like if you had a really bad like CG or like proto CG like tumbleweed in an old movie, it does not look real. But then you find out that these spiders can actually do this at about 6.6 feet per second, and then it becomes terrifying.
How much is 6.6 feet per second in miles an hour?
Well, I don't know, but Marcus, think about how far about 6 feet is, and I'll think about moving that in a second.
Feet per second to miles per hour.
I was doing the same thing. I was Googling it.
5 miles an hour. So a little bit more than a brisk walk, but way faster than I want my spiders to go.
Right. Particularly, here's the thing, too, is that if I have a spider approach me at that rate, one, I don't want that. But if I were going to, I would rather have it be like walking on its legs towards me that way, because that way I feel like it's in control. This is definitely not in control. I don't want an out of control spider careening towards me.
Yeah, this spider's having a bad day, and I want no fucking part of it.
Exactly. So we got that. Those, doing our like tumbling stuff. Then of course, as I think Chris brought up, you got jumping spiders. That was Chris, right? You brought up jumping spiders.
Yep.
So yeah, jumping spiders, they jump. That one's kind of the name there. They can jump up to 50 times their body length, some of them, which is pretty impressive. I saw one kind called Bagheera Kiplini, which is named after the Jungle Book character. Jesus, can't talk. Which I only bring up really because kind of cool fact. It's one of the few like almost entirely vegetarian spiders.
What?
It basically eats like nectar. There's like a nectar that like some other bug like harvests, and it will basically jump down to the trees where they like store it and grab some and then jump away. And that's like predominantly what it eats, which is kind of cool. So there are spiders that do not, eat things. Well, they eat something, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And then finally, in addition to your flying spiders, there are actually also gliding spiders that I think you could do some like, feats with. I don't know.
But I have a question about your circus.
Yes.
How big do you imagine it is?
It's quite small. I think you're actually going to film it and then put it like projected or something. I thought about that.
Like, what if you just put like little stages like all over, like little columns, like little concrete columns with like little stages in them, and then people walk around and check out different acts?
That works. That works too.
Or you just have like a GoPro and then it sends it to a big screen.
Yeah, that was kind of my original idea. Was you have a very small stage, in like the center of a large arena, because that's just hilarious mental image. And then you have it like projected up what's actually happening on this tiny stage. But yeah, so there are these gliding spiders that it's the genus Selenops. They live in the tree canopies in like Panama and Peru, and they actually do controlled glides back to tree trunk when they fall out. And scientists discovered this because they did a study where they dropped 59 spiders, and 93% of them successfully glide back to the tree. And I really don't want to do that experiment.
What? Yeah, why? Why did they do that experiment?
I also don't know why it was 59 spiders. Because that's a kind of arbitrary number that worries me a little bit. But whatever.
I don't think you get to choose how many spiders you've caught. I guess
that's true. You just catch a bunch of spiders and go for it. So I figure you have some high wire spiders. This is either their act is, gliding into a tiny glass of water or whatever, or they are your tight wire or tightrope walkers, and if they fall they just glide to the post and like, hey, we're fine, or whatever. I don't know, but you can do something with it. They can glide. That's cool. They're apparently good at it. There's something there. That's kind of it. Like we said, yeah, I don't know the exact logistics of the circus. I kind of like your pillars with tiny acts on them idea, but I also do like the idea of just, you have a little camera pointing out them and it's kind of adorable. So yeah, that's kind of my spider circus plan. And I would never go visit this activity because that's terrifying. So
well, you have to train them.
Yeah, I'll do that from a distance.
I'll train the spiders from a distance.
Yeah.
You'll just yell from across the room.
Yeah. No, tumble that way. Yeah.
No, not towards me.
Not towards me. Nope, never that way.
Halloween is just around the corner, but you still don't have a costume. Oh no! What are you gonna do? 2 words. Duct tape. Introducing the Duct Tape Costume Kit. The costume kit with everything you need to make any costume you want. Make a duct tape cape and become a superhero. Craft a top hat and become a fancy philanthropist. Fold some triangles and tape them to your gums and become a spooky vampire. The possibilities are endless. Our specially designed kit comes with 5 rolls of duct tape. And that's it. The rest is up to you. Only 10 easy payments of $29.95.
In the center of Romania lies the beautiful but mysterious region of Transylvania. Sometimes people go missing, and sometimes the missing people show up dead. Only the CSI Transylvania team can find out who commits these spooky crimes. Watch as the investigators search for fingerprints, talk to the coroner, and analyze everything back at the lab before coming to the stunning conclusion that Dracula did it. Again, just like every week. CSI Transylvania, crime sucks.
How many licks does it take to get to the center of a lollipop? Too few if you ask us. What if you had a lollipop that lasted basically forever? Well, now you can find out with Rock Pops. Rock Pops are all-natural lollipops made of tasty rock and minerals. We've got all your favorites: granite, andesite, monzonite, pegmatite, phonolite, tonalite, websterite, dolomite, laterite, granulite, quartzite, and limestone. Why settle for a candy that doesn't even register on a geological timescale? These Rock Pops rock, so get yours today, and you can suck on that schist until the end of the Cenozoic era. Alright, welcome back everybody. Keeping in line with our spooky Halloween theme, our next question is, what if you were a monster? For this question, we all picked a different type of monster to be, doing the classic ones, zombie, vampire, werewolf, and just kind of figuring out what we do from there. Chris, I'll let you start.
Yes, so I did zombie, and there are a lot of different types of zombies, so I had to choose which one. The classic one was voodoo is related to voodoo. I didn't want to do that.
Voodoo,
I don't know exactly. I didn't really look too much into it because I knew I wasn't going to do it, but something voodoo related is the classic zombie. But The more modern zombie is like the infected, where they like run super fast. It's like they're not actually dead, they just have like a virus. I didn't do that either. What I did was the classic George Romero zombie. So like zombies from like Night of the Living Dead, stuff like that. The reason I chose these is because they kind of like defined the zombie archetype when they came out. So I figured it was fitting.
So you're gonna be like, I would walk around slowly and try to eat brains. All right, Ben, you're up.
There is one caveat. I did assume that I was intelligent enough to actually think for myself, because I think zombies are generally pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. So I can think for myself and I can like plan stuff. And there were two main problems that I saw as a zombie. The first one was that I crave living flesh. That's a problem. Oh, I don't think you mentioned, but so we're saying like you're a monster, but you're trying to like live a normal life as a monster, right?
Yeah, you're a monster, but not like a bad guy. Yeah.
That's at least what I did.
That's what I did too.
So that's why craving living flesh is a problem, because I can't live a normal life if I'm killing people.
Right.
So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that my body is decomposing. So that's, yeah, so it's going to smell very bad, and I'm going to look like I'm just like falling apart, which is not good. So to deal with the first problem, craving human flesh, I actually looked it up, and actually zombies don't need to eat to survive. It's like part of their brain instincts, because like all other higher functions of the brain shut down, and then it's just like primitive brain function.
Science has shown that zombies don't actually need to eat brains to survive.
They just do it because they're assholes.
Yeah, there's like a whole scientific wiki article on zombies.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so they don't actually need to eat. It's just the craving. So I'm going to crave this stuff, but I have to deal with the craving somehow. But it's not a big deal if I deal with it and I don't actually eat anything. So the solution I came up with was something they used in The Walking Dead. There's one character that cut off one of the zombies' jaws, and they cut off both of their arms, so that he just like couldn't do anything if there's a person around. Like he can't bite them, he can't grab them, so he just got complacent. So that's the way I solved that problem.
Chris, that's not living a normal life.
I do that to myself. I mean, I would replace my jaw with like a fake jaw, I guess, and like have fake arms.
Well, then your problem's not fixed. You haven't fixed your problem at all, because then you can still bite people and grab them.
No, I don't have control of the arms. It's just for like cosmetic reasons.
Okay.
So problem number one solved.
For some definition of solved.
Problem number two, body's decomposing. Just chop off the bits I don't need.
Yeah, problem number two, body's decomposing. And I found a fact that specifically Romero zombies, they actually last 10 to 12 years before decomposing, like to a point where they can't really move anymore. But they didn't really give like an explanation of how that happens, because like bodies decompose way faster than that in real life.
Yeah, especially if you amputate off parts.
I don't think that really matters anymore if it's amputated or not, but whatever.
Well, I'm saying, like, you know, if you're gonna tracking how long it takes you to lose function of your arm, chopping it off is a pretty quick way to do it.
Yeah, pretty quick A to B there.
Yeah. So it's like, I wanted to see how I could slow down decomposition, and the main factors of decomposition are moisture, temperature, and oxygen. So I actually looked into how funeral homes do it, because they have to like preserve the body for funerals and stuff. And what they do is they embalm a body. So my research got really gross in doing this. So I'm
You don't say.
I'm gonna spare the details. I'm gonna generalize. But essentially what they do is they drain all the fluids from the body. So they like inject you with stuff that like drains the fluids, and it like they use chemicals to clean you and stuff like that. And then they use makeup to actually like make you look better. So I could do this. I could embalm myself. That would essentially deal with the moisture problem. But the problem is, usually when funeral homes are embalming a body, it's really just to last until the funeral, and then after the funeral, they don't really care. So it's not a long-lasting solution.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing I looked at was temperature. And I look specifically at morgues, because morgues deal with dead bodies and like low temperatures. So there are 2 types of morgues that they have. There's like a positive temperature morgue and a negative temperature morgue. And the positive one usually stores the bodies around like 36 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And this can extend the life of the body, or not the life of the body, but the shelf life of the body, I guess, for like several weeks. And then negative morgues go anywhere from like 14 to negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit, which completely freezes the body. So I could do this I could like have a house that is lower temperature. The problem is this would be very high energy costs, and the positive temperature really only extends my life for like a few weeks, and then the negative temperature completely freezes my body. I don't want to freeze my body. So still not really a viable long-term option.
Plus, you can't adjust the thermostat because you have no fucking arms.
Also, so it has high energy costs, but I'm basically not going to be able to do any sort of job at all.
Yeah.
So I was going to say one of the positive things about being a zombie is that I have low living costs because I don't need food or anything, but this temperature strategy kind of ruins that. So
Right.
Well, as a zombie, you could say you have no living costs, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so temperature, not a good option. So next I was like, maybe I'm looking at this from the wrong angle. I'm looking at like dead bodies and how we preserve dead bodies, but we don't really care about dead bodies once they're like buried and stuff. So instead of dead bodies, I started looking at how we preserve food. And ways that we preserve food, we cure them, which solves the moisture problem. We freeze them, which is the temperature problem. And one of the techniques that I came across that I actually want to try to implement on myself is canning. So canned food lasts a very, very long time. In 1974, they found a bunch of canned food in a sunken steamboat in the Missouri River. And they were 109 years old, but they tested the food and it was still safe to eat. So that's pretty good. So I looked into the process of canning food. What they usually do is they get a can, they fill it with either brine or syrup to displace as much oxygen as possible in the can. And then they fill the can with whatever food they want to preserve. And then they run the can through like either hot water or steam or something to heat it up. And what they want to do is make the food expand, and that drives out all the rest of the oxygen. And then they seal the can. So when they seal the can, it creates a partial vacuum, which is ideal for preserving stuff because you don't want oxygen. And then they mechanically exhaust the rest of the can to get rid of any excess oxygen. And then afterwards, they heat it up to around 240 degrees Fahrenheit to kill any other microorganisms that are in there. And then the can is cooled and it's packaged and ready to sell. So I was like, okay, how can I do this to myself?
Gonna need a big can.
My big can is a spacesuit. I can get a spacesuit.
Fill it with jam.
Yes, fill it with brine. I was going to say brine. You got to get rid of the insulation because you need to heat yourself up. And spacesuits are like super insulated to protect the astronauts from temperatures. So you get rid of that. Fill with brine. You get in. You go to a spa and find their steam room. You sit in their steam room for a while, and then you close the suit. And then that'll create the partial vacuum. And then instead of your oxygen tanks, you'll connect it to like an industrial vacuum or something and suck out the rest of the oxygen to create a complete vacuum. And then to heat yourself up, because afterwards you need to heat yourself up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit, you need to find a barbecue smoker and walk into the barbecue smoker for, I don't know how long, but for a while to kill the rest of the microorganisms in your suit. And then take a cold bath after that, and you're good. You're a canned zombie, and you could walk around.
I would love it a lot more if you had arms, you know?
Well, your suit has arms, so it'll look like you have arms. Actually, well, you can still have your jaw now, I guess, because you're wearing a helmet. You can't bite anyone. You might still need to cut off your arms. I don't know.
It depends.
Yeah, I don't know how easy it is to kill someone in a spacesuit with your arms.
Questions that never been asked.
Hey Google, how hard is it to kill someone in a spacesuit? No, they're not in a spacesuit. You're in a spacesuit. No, they're not in space. Look, go back to the first.
Would you need to cut off your arms? So that's my solution for living a normal life. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't have a job because I don't need a job. So I'd just walk around in a spacesuit.
You could be an astronaut.
I could be an astronaut. That would solve my craving problem because like nobody's in space.
Yeah, there you go. Then you have your arms back, and then you're just literally a space zombie.
Yeah, you go to Mars.
Yeah, exactly. So Ben, what did you do?
So I examined life as a werewolf. So the werewolf is actually kind of fun because unlike like the vampire and zombie, scenarios, for a lot of the time you don't really have too much of an impact to yourself, which is nice. It gives you a lot of leeway. So
sort of like for the day you're just like a normal guy, right?
Well, so my werewolf assumptions. So one, I went with you only turn to a werewolf the night of a full moon. So obviously there's a lot of different versions of werewolves where there is just like every night. There's like by choice sometimes.
Oh, really?
Sometimes there's ones where it's like every night, but depending on like what phase the moon is in, it's like more or less strong. So like if it's a new moon, you're just get like a little furrier, I guess, and that's kind of it. Up all the way up to like, full on wolf for a full moon. I went with just full moon, full blown wolf. That's it. Second off, you do transform into a big old wolf. Sometimes apparently they just have werewolves turn to just like a regular ass wolf, which is a little less like exciting.
That's boring.
Yeah, like I want the semi bipedal like big old ferocious werewolf. And then third, and kind of most importantly, while you are wolfy, you have very limited control over your actions.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, that is, and that's kind of why I went with I wanted that aspect of it, and I did not want that along with every night it happens, because that gets a lot trickier.
That'd be impossible.
Otherwise, it's like, it's one night a month, I can control myself, so I just hang out and watch Netflix. All right, Marcus, you're up.
Right, exactly. So one night a month, night of the full moon, big ass wolf, and you are wolfy in both body and mind, I guess, in this time. So your main goal here is going to be, obviously, hiding your wolfy nature, which I want to point out, first off, technically, it may not be necessary to hide the fact that you're a werewolf. It's not a crime to turn into a wolf person. Like, I just want to put that out there. There's no,
People might try to burn you at the stake or something.
Well, right, but I mean, they would be prosecuted for that. That would be murder. Like, you are still a human being that also just is sometimes also a wolf.
Are there werewolf rights? Werewolf civil rights?
There is no law anywhere banning you from turning into a wolf.
It's not on the books. I commit a brand new crime.
Well, we better add it.
So, I mean, yes, we probably should, but regardless, it's legal to become a wolf. Yeah. So I will say, though, it is still a good idea to hide the fact that you're a werewolf, because if people know you're a werewolf, you're going to get blamed for a lot of shit. Because, think about, literally every werewolf movie or TV show. There's always a scene where, they find, a dead hiker or something, and they're like, oh, it must have gotten killed by a bear. That always happens, like a bear or a wolf or whatever. If they know there's a werewolf around, anytime anyone gets attacked by a bear, they'll be like, fucking Jerry. It's Jerry again. God damn it.
Jerry, last week it was my dog. This week's it's fucking little Bobby down the road. It's like, and you're like, there can't be 2 full moons in 2 weeks in a row. Also, none of them were full moons. It's like, yeah, but all these dead things. And it's like, no, I can't explain the moon cycle to you any more clearly.
Exactly. So it's just particularly if you live in a place with bears or wolves or whatever, you don't want people to know about this because it's just going to give you a lot of hassle. And yes, you could wind up getting arrested for something you may or may not have actually done.
I mean, eventually the legal system would exonerate you, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not illegal. You already established that.
That's true. Well, I guess if you...
I think murder is still illegal.
Well, yeah, so the problem is that there's a very real chance at some point you might actually, like, kill someone,
okay.
and you don't really want that one to come back to you, particularly. Yeah. So, for the most part, like I said, hiding the fact that you're a werewolf is pretty easy. You know, I think the moon cycle is like 29.5 days or something. So, most of the time, you just live your life, and that's great. You don't have any particularly debilitating weaknesses. There's like the silver stuff, but that one is kind of hazy on what actually happens there. Like a lot of the time, it's like literally you have to be like pierced by silver, and you can probably avoid that one pretty easily most of the time. Sometimes there's like a silver allergy kind of thing where it like is uncomfortable to touch, but even if that's the case, like how frequently are you touching silver?
Yeah, you could be a jeweler. Like, you can check if things are made of actual silver.
Ooh, perfect.
Oh, you could use it to your advantage.
Yeah, there you go.
This one didn't make me break out in hives, so I guess that'd be the equivalent of like a peanut allergic health like food inspector trying to find out if there's peanuts in factories.
So maybe
not
it's
a
not
great
ideal.
plan.
Yeah, but it is a plan.
It is.
But yeah, so really your goal here is going to be, you have to figure out some way to, on that one night a month, basically, how to hide the fact that you turn into a vicious werewolf. So your first option, and really your main option if you live like in the city in like an apartment building or something, is just to get like really into camping. Like really into camping. Because you're not really going to have any way to like constrain yourself that people aren't going to notice if you live in like an apartment building. So you got to just get as far away from people as possible. So you just sort of have this, you become that guy at work, you know, who you have like, you know, your wall is covered in pictures of you on like mountains and shit. And like you keep like a kayak on the roof of your car all the time. You know, you're that guy, you know, everyone's a little bit annoyed by the fact that you always bring it up. So then that way it's believable that every month, end of the month, you go on a camping trip. You just drive out way in the middle of nowhere and just hang out there and let it run its course and hope nothing happens.
What if like one of your coworkers is also really into camping? They want to come with you.
That's a good question.
You make excuses every month until they give up.
Right. I think what you do then, you either say you have to make it a person. You have to make it like socially awkward for them to ask again. Like, so like the first time they ask, you'd be like, well, actually, it was my late wife's thing. We would always go camping under the full moon, and then she passed away. So this is kind of my personal time, so you can not join me. You have another option too. You make it religious. You find some like weird, you know, strange religion that like has some weird monthly prayer back to nature thing or something, or make one up or whatever, and just like make it super uncomfortable.
You can say you're a pagan, right?
Yeah,
pagans are into like nature and stuff, right?
Yeah. So, you know, you figure out something along those lines to make it really uncomfortable for them so where they don't want to do it anymore. So that would work. So I'm not going to lie, this is a pretty bad option. I'm going to say that if you're a werewolf, you should probably not live in an apartment building so you can do my main plan. Because this is sort of the backup plan. It'll kind of work, but you're leaving a lot up to chance here. Because, like, one, there could be someone else out there that you wind up, you know, murdering in a wolfy rage, which is not good. You probably won't get found out, which is nice because you're out in the middle of nowhere. But, you know, it's still not a good thing to have that happen,
still
obviously.
Rather not kill someone.
Yeah, preferably let's not kill people in general. And then also just like, I'm seeing this like disaster scenario where, once again, you don't really have a whole lot of control while you're a wolfie. So, you know, you go out, you pitch your tent, do all that, turn to a wolf. And then what if you just run like 4 miles away and then you wake up the next morning like naked and 4 miles away from your campsite and your car and everything and have to like find your way home back. Yeah. So this is sort of your disaster, not really disaster scenario, but you know, this is not ideal, but it'll technically kind of work. Your better option is requires some more control of your living space. So you're going to have to own your own home, and preferably you're going to want to own a home with a little land around it, so you're not, you know, don't have neighbors too close. But that's not a huge deal if you can't pull that one off. But preferably that's sort of the situation you want. And then what you're going to want is you're going to want a place where you can restrain yourself and preferably also, soundproof the room so no one can hear your like wolfy cries and whatnot.
A reverse murder room. That looks
Right.
exactly like a regular murder room,
Well,
but it's for
no.
not murdering.
No, but so here's the thing is that you definitely need to be able to, and if you want to live a normal life, you need to like be able to have people around your house. And if they like stumble into it, you have to have an explanation. So you're going to have to get into some kinky sex shit.
I was just thinking that. I was hoping
Because
you were going here.
That's the best way to have a soundproof room with restraints in it, right? Like,
yeah.
and what's also great is that if for example, one of your friends stumbles into this room and you have to explain it, they are never going to bring this up again to anyone.
You don't even have to explain it. Like if someone if I was at a friend's home and I was like, oh, where's the bathroom? Like third door on the left, and I went to like the third door on the right, and I opened it up, and it was just like a straight up sex dungeon. I'd be like, I tried the door on the left first, and I never even did that.
Well, no, and here's what's great though is that with this friend, if they ask you to do something the night of the full moon, all you have to do is just say, "Oh, I have plans that night." I'll be like, "Nope, okay, I'm good."
Yeah.
Fine. Yep, you're busy. I see that now. Don't tell me anything else.
Yeah, but
So it becomes your alibi too. It's perfect. So this is the ideal situation. And I mean, you don't have to actually be into that stuff if you don't want to, but I mean, maybe you try it and you like it. Who knows? You find a hobby.
Maybe
it's
you
great.
saw 50 Shades of Grey and you liked it.
Yeah, you had some questions. It's good. So if you're actually into that, that's cool. Everything works out great then. That's the ideal situation, honestly. But if you don't, just go along with it. Act like you do, and you have a nice, perfect, alibi that no one will ask too many questions about. And good way to just stop anyone from getting hurt or anything. And the rest of your life, you're just, normal guy. It's perfect. So that's my foolproof plan for life as a werewolf. Kinky sex dungeon. So, Marcus, what do you have?
okay. So I'm in line with you, Ben. I think that so my monster was a vampire, so I'm a vampire. Count. I'll get there.
Schlockula.
Count get there.
Count touch this.
Count touch
Touch
this.
this.
That's amazing.
Speaking of kinky sex stuff, anyway.
So I agree with Ben in that the main goal is to say, to hide the fact that you are, in my case, a vampire. Because it's true that if people find out you're a vampire, your life's gonna suck. Like, people are not accepting of even other people. So never
Right.
mind vampires. So the first thing, like Chris was saying, is the craving is the big thing about being a vampire. Craving the blood.
And you actually need the blood, right? To survive?
Yeah, so I do need blood to survive. So I can't go fucking cutting off my arms and face. And so I was like, all right, so let me find out what some of the alternatives are for blood, because like I figured, yeah, you can get like, like big juicy steaks and meats or whatever. But I feel like at a certain point, like once you get to know people like better, like it starts to get like a little bit suspicious, Like there's a lot of giveaways for vampires, so you have to really watch. Like there's the, obviously the sucking blood thing, the turning into a bat thing, the not coming up in mirrors thing, the, keeping weird hours type thing. A lot of stuff that can get you found out. And if you're just kind of like going about your regular life and just, biting into steaks, I don't think it's going to be enough. And so what you can actually use, and has been used in admittedly more emergency situations, but coconut milk is an acceptable blood transfusion material.
Wait, what?
So coconut milk, mostly water, and your blood is made up of water, and then like the main minerals are potassium and calcium, which coconut milk has both of. Not in quite the right ratio, so it's not super good for you. I'm not sure if you're going to end up being sickly, but I think you're an immortal vampire, so you get over it. It's also sterile because it just is grown inside the coconut. So I was reading a whole article about how this guy, out in the tropics, had some horrible disease, and he needed blood transfusions, and the hospital ran out of blood transfusions, and because they were so far away from, the mainland that they wouldn't get one for a few days, and they kept him alive for 3 days by giving him coconut milk transfusions.
Wow.
So we're gonna be a tropical vampire.
Well, that's where it leads into my follow-up question with the tropical vampire idea. How are you gonna deal with the sun?
With the sun?
Yeah, the
Yes.
sun is a problem.
So here's the thing. The sun problem is easier in the tropics because the sunrise and the sunset are always the same.
Oh yeah, it's predictable.
That's true. Yeah.
So you actually, I think you're better off as far as your alibi goes because, like, if you are in the north, you know, in the summer you got your longer, excuse me, you got your shorter days in the winter and longer days in the summer. But like your routine, like you can't convince people you're a human being with like a 7-hour night routine.
Right.
So the 12 and 12 I think is good. So that's the one great part about being in the tropics. Really, with this whole answer for me, just the tropics everything works out for being a vampire. The thing I was looking at that I spent most of my time on, admittedly, was you need a vampire castle because otherwise, what the fuck are you doing?
That's true.
And what's cool in a lot of the Caribbean islands is that obviously these were, you know, part of the what do they call the days where Britain and Spain and everyone took over a whole bunch of islands?
Colonies?
Colonization, yeah, part of colonization, colonies type thing. So all these islands have like forts built on them, which I think is a perfectly acceptable substitute for a vampire castle.
Well, that's reasonable.
There are tropical castles.
There are tropical castles.
Yeah, lots of them.
Tropicastles, if you will.
It's funny too because they have like the ports that come in, and the big thing over in those islands is like whenever they have the bays that go into the island, they have like those boat chains that go across, where it's like, you know, if a boat comes over, the chain gets pulled taut and it shreds the bottom of the boat. And you're on a boat when they tell you this cool fact and driving into the bay, and like you're like, are you sure that they don't use this thing anymore before we go any further? But yeah, so I was looking at a bunch of different forts, and the one that struck out to me just because of the architecture, and it was one of the bigger ones, and it was on a nice big hill and isolated, was the Citadelle La Ferrière on Haiti. Seems like a great choice. You know, it's got 110,000 square feet of space for me. It's got royal quarters. It includes dungeons already built in. You don't even have to add that yourself as a vampire. And I think my favorite part, it's got 365 cannons in case people do find out you're a vampire. You need to defend yourself.
You can use them one by one.
Look, I don't know. Maybe you set up some, like, it's your castle. You could set up, like, some fancy rope burning contraption that shoots, like, a bunch of pulleys and ropes or something. I think another good thing is, like, when these big stone forts, not a lot of mirrors around. And I think, like, just in general, in the tropics, there's less mirrors and reflective surfaces around. Like, even the ocean is crystal clear and doesn't reflect as much as, like, you know, our shitty ocean up here in the north. So I think, like, 1, there's not many mirrors around. 2, you got your coconuts. Like, no one's ever gonna question you when you're drinking coconut milk out of a coconut on a tropical island. You have a castle. There are over 20 species of bats.
I was just going to ask about bats, yeah.
Yeah, there's 20 species of bats to blend in with at nighttime. Really, the only nick that I found in this plan is that Caribbean cuisine, you know, jerk sauce and all that, has a lot of garlic. So
yeah.
I don't know how often you need to fake, like, eating a dinner, because I guess you don't often as a vampire, but, you know, avoiding the garlic's going to be tricky. But considering how many weaknesses vampires typically have, this ain't so bad. And I will say one particular nice thing about this Citadelle La Ferrière is that, you know, it's a tourist attraction, so you can kind of, like, your alibi can be like, I run this place. During the day, there's tourists. I can't do anything, so I hide away inside. I'm busy. I'm in my office. And then I just live here at night because it's convenient not to have to go home. So you don't even have to, like, own the castle. Like I'm not sure what your first steps in getting the castle to be yours is. Like,
yeah, you need a lot of money.
Yeah, so I don't think money is the way to go. So I think either you physically forcefully take it over with your vampire powers,
and then kill that one guy so he can't tell anyone else, and then live a normal life.
Yeah, it's like you can do like the thing where you just like take over, which I guess you can maybe get found out by some historian down the line, like Nicolas Cage comes in and does a movie or something. But yeah, if you kind of just like work there and convince them to let you stay there, I think you're okay. You're in pretty good shape.
You have to get an internship and work your way up.
Yeah, work your way up while avoiding the sun. Be like, yeah, I want to show people around the fort, but I can't go outside in the fort. And they'll be like, you're fired. You're like, wait, no, please. I'll murder you. But yeah, it's like up on a big mountain. There's like it's like 7 miles away from like the nearest, populated area. And there's actually people that have like half settled on the trail that sell coconut juice to the tourists. So I think the mental image I have is that like you run this place, you keep the tourists coming in. And basically your shtick is that like every day you just try to find one tourist with like holding a coconut milk and like stealthily steal their coconut milk from them. And like that's the bad vampire thing you do.
Do you have to like grind off your fangs?
I don't think so. Like,
I think people are going to notice your fangs.
I mean, people have incisors, and I think they have to get very long before I'm like, that seems weird.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sometimes people have long incisors. They're not vampires.
I mean, I guess you could just get them removed.
Play hockey. There you go.
Oh, and one last note, just to tell you how perfect the islands are, is that, like, very few people actually, like, live on the islands, like, full-time. Like, a lot of people are just, like, visiting vacationers, so it's gonna be longer before someone notices that you're living basically forever.
That's a good point, too. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so usually what I do in these questions is, like, I start with I look for facts, find a premise, and then, like, overcome the challenges. But just in good Caribbean tradition, it was just very stress-free. Just everything worked out nicely.
Yeah, think of all these 3 monsters. You have the best life.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely better than yours. I didn't can myself in an armless hell. And I don't have to make people think I'm a fucking kinky-ass sex person. Unless I want them to, but that's my choice.
Right.
Yeah, it's your decision.
You do have dungeons.
Yeah, so I guess, well, that's just thematic. That's just part of being a vampire.
Sure. Keep telling yourself that.
Oh, we should all just go as the things we said we were for Halloween this year and be totally original. Be like, yeah, I'm a vampire, but you don't get it.
I'm gonna wear an astronaut suit.
and don't move your arms.
Yeah.
Be a space zombie, please.
You got a whole 2 days from the airing of this episode before you get there?
Yeah.
I'll be a werewolf. I'll just check and see if it's a full moon that night, and just if it's not, be a werewolf.
God, I just realized it's a pretty good cop-out costume.
It's really pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, I'm a werewolf. It's just not a full moon.
It's not a full moon, guys. Sorry, what can I say?
It's like, yeah, I'm a vampire. I'm in my human form. I'm not in my bat form. Well, I mean, obviously, we have to go make these costumes now, so we do not have time for any more discussion on these questions. But tune in next week where we cover the following. What if the ground was made of trampolines? And what if the Earth was a cube? If you have any questions, comments, or your own hypothetical idea you want us to answer, let us know. You can reach us by email at absurdhypotheticals@gmail.com, send us a tweet at absurdhype, that's HYPE hype, visit our website, www.nerdchomp.com/absurdhypotheticals, and if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps out the show and lets us keep making it for you.